You can afford to buy a house in Australia. Stick around and I'll tell you how. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm taking a bit of a pause from my super cheap superfood series. Life is not all about food. Part of satisfaction and happiness is having control over your life and lifestyle. A major factor in that is where you live. So this is the first video in my How to Buy a House series. It makes me so mad when the media bangs on about how unaffordable it is to buy a house in Australia and how much harder it is these days than it was for our parents and grandparents. There is some truth in those statements, but such lamenting brings us no solutions. Repeating these statements do not empower us or bring us closer to where we want to be in our lives. All it does is take away people's hopes and push the idea of property ownership to the back of their minds. So it is put off for perhaps some time in the future when some unforeseen circumstance may make it easier to buy a house. This is no good because in Australia at least, buying a house is far superior to renting. I'll expand on that in future videos, but for now just trust me that it's better to buy sooner than later. So what qualifies me to give out opinions and advice? Well, I decided around 2006 that I wanted to buy a house, and I've been researching all things property and property investing ever since. In 2010, I bought a house on my own, and then in 2014, my husband and I bought a house together as well. Getting the first house is the hardest, so over this series, I'm going to go into great detail about what I was earning, what my expenses were, how I saved money, and exactly how much the houses cost, as well as the ways we still keep costs down as a family today. But I'll give you a hint. We did it the same way anyone has ever achieved anything of note, through hard work and sacrifice. As the great Mel Robbins says, getting what you want is simple, but it's not easy. So here it is, my number one reason why you can afford to buy a house in today's market. Because median house prices are irrelevant. Yes, median house prices are high, and they are what all the doom and gloom is based around. They are something like $670,000 in Brisbane, $900,000 in Melbourne, and $1.1 million in Sydney. But to imply that the median house price is the average house price gives an inaccurate picture of the housing market. What is more helpful is to call it the middle price. So the middle house prices are a combination of houses at that price, houses that are more expensive, and, most importantly, houses that are cheaper. In just 10 minutes of searching the interweb, I found some much more positive property prospects. Forget paying $670,000 in Brisbane. Within the last 8 months, there have been 3-bedroom houses 20 k's from the CBD selling for around $300,000 to $350,000. Don't pay $900,000 in Melbourne. There are several suburbs within 25 kilometres of the city where you can buy a 3-bedroom house for around $450,000 to $500,000. Yes, that's legitimate sold prices in June and July 2018. Yeah, but what about Sydney, the most expensive city in the history of the world? Well, of course it's expensive. It's awesome. People from around the world want to live there. But you don't need to pay $1.1 million. 40 to 50 kilometres from Sydney CBD, there are 3-bedroom houses that again have sold for around $450,000 to $500,000. Yes, that's correct. As of the time this video is going to air, July 2018. So outside of peak hours, you could be in the centre of one of the most epic cities in the world in around 45 minutes. How can you find these suburbs? Simply type into Google, where to buy a house in X city for under X dollars. Then go to the sold section of realestate.com or domain, search recent sold prices for those suburbs, and you'll see what you'd get for your money. Are these suburbs where you'd want to live? No, probably not. But why don't you ask your parents or your grandparents what their first house was like back in the good old days when things were so much easier? Did they have a nicely renovated home in a leafy, trendy village? Or did they have a rundown 2-bedroom shack with a leaky tin roof in an average working class neighbourhood? I'm going to bet that in most cases it was the latter. Now, I hope I haven't taken the wind out of your sails by suggesting that you live in a rundown shack in some dodgy outer suburb. Firstly, the area is probably way better than your perception of it. And secondly, just because you buy there doesn't mean you have to live there. In fact, it might work out better if you don't live there. I'm going to explain why in next week's episodes, so make sure you subscribe and tune in for that. But for now, what I want you to take away from this video is that buying a home is way more affordable than you may have thought. You can buy a house for around half the median price in your city. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!